All right, welcome icons and future icons to our every other week webinar. Now today, I've got a huge treat for you. A guy named Chris Waters, who goes from a single agent closing no transactions to now closing over 5,000 transactions per year. Now, one thing I've learned is those leaders, those what I'll call icons, who have achieved the pinnacle. I mean, they got to the top of the mountain. What I've learned is that there wasn't anybody who picked them up and just kind of set them down there. You understand? Now, getting to the top of a mountain is challenging. And the smart person, well, they're going to learn from their own mistakes, right, Chris? The smarter people, of course, they're going to learn from the mistakes of others. Yet, I believe the extraordinary person, just like you, all of you who are on this webinar with us today, you study the successes of those that have gone before us. Bottom line, success leaves clues. Now, each and every one of you can type into the chat, ask whatever question you'd like to ask a guy named like Chris Waters, somebody who has gotten to the top of the mountain, who's going to just pour into you today with actionable strategies that you can implement and deploy right now in your business to really double your production year over year. So I'm going to introduce some of our panelists. Now, our panelists today, these are individuals that I've had the pleasure of aligning with. They've aligned with our community here that we call Icon Producers. By the way, it doesn't cost you anything to be part of our community. All you have to do is go to Facebook, just look up the group. It's a private group. It's called Icon Producers. Just apply to become a member, and you're going to see replays of webinars like this. You're going to see other, just value add, content driven, actionable items that you can implement right away to double your own production. So I'm going to start with the introductions. Rick Jansen, let's talk about Rick. Where are you at, Rick? Where are you located?
Hey, my name's Rick Jansen. I am in Denver, Colorado. Been licensed since 2002. And I'm just so excited to learn from Chris today. I've managed to break into the top 10% in my market, but I feel stuck. And you broke through that. And I'd love to learn how you did that.
Fantastic, Rick. Welcome, Cindy Jenkins. Tell us a little bit about Cindy.
Hi, yes, I got licensed in 2015. I was a single mom teaching, couldn't afford to really raise my kids on my teacher salary anymore. Got licensed, had to continue to teach full time, ended up selling 26 houses my first year. I was still scared to leave. I'm teaching full time. I sell 26 houses, make more money than I ever imagined, in addition to my teaching salary. And I was still so scared to leave. Ended up leaving and going all in, had to start a team within a year of that. And I now built a top 1% team in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm now in Vegas. So I would love to hear how Chris manages multiple markets.
Ooh, that's a great question, no doubt. David Torgerson, take it away.
Yeah, Dave Torgerson. I've been in real estate now for, this will be my 15th year. I'm in Helena, Montana. I run a team. We've got 7 agents now. We'll finish off the year probably around 50 million. Well, not probably, it'll be over 50, between 50 and 60 million. And yeah, excited to be here amongst all of you. And yeah, want to learn from a master.
Well, I'm so glad you could be here, David, from Montana, which for those of you that are curious, they do actually have internet in that state. It's good stuff. Lee Jennings, take it away.
Hi guys, hi everyone. Lee Jennings. I'm an EXP agent in Seattle, Washington, solo agent, been licensed since 2005, but I've only been selling for about 2 years. I was in property management prior to that. And yeah, just really humbled and honored to be here, and really interested in learning more from Chris as far as just how his strategies can really help a solo agent.
Ooh, good stuff. And last and certainly not least, Ms. Collette Mcdonald, our HG superstar, only approved realtor for the Atlanta Falcons organization, by the way. Take it away, Collette.
Hey guys, Collette Mcdonald. I'm actually in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been doing the second generation for almost 20 years. I'm excited to listen to Chris today because I've been frustrated with building these big teams, and I want to step away from the business in the next 2 years and basically give it to my team. And I can't wait to hear the strategies of actually training people up so that I don't have to be that person on the listing appointment or even the buyer's appointment, but they still feel confident with the level of service.
Fantastic. Welcome, Collette. And I said last and certainly not least, however, Kevin Yoder, I'm so glad you could join us today. Kevin is a coach. He's a top producing agent. Tell us a little bit about Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin. Take it away. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
Hey, everyone. Thanks. Sorry for my late arrival. Chris, thanks for being here. My background is about 19 years in real estate. And I've done the team thing. I've built it. I've dropped it to the floor, rebuilt it again, started all over from scratch. And here we are again, a better, bigger version than we were even 365 days ago. And at the same time, I'm still here humbly open to learning how to do it better, how to streamline, how to have better systems, how to be a better leader. And that's what I'm grateful for today, and excited to learn.
Way to go. All right. Now last and certainly not least, I'll say it again, Mr. Chris Waters. Chris, tell us a little bit about Chris Waters. Tell us about Waters International Realty. Just pour into us, man. Take it away.
Yeah. So 2000, well, to give you a little backstory, I graduated college at the end of 2006, and I had a lawn mowing business to pay my way through college. And one of my most pain in the ass customers ran a team at Keller Williams. And I was going on job interviews my senior year, and he convinced me to join his team. And I joined his team, and was, I'll be honest, I was a 21-year-old at the time, was not humble, was not coachable. And, I was on his team for about 4 months, and, I was going to the Keller Williams training classes, and everybody's saying listings are the last and all this stuff. And, he's sending me on doing open houses, working sign calls, giving me internet leads. And I started closing deals. But, I wanted to be closing deals faster and closing more deals. And I quickly saw like kind of a law of diminishing return on the buy side from a time perspective with buyer side internet lead gen. And so I started really challenging him a lot. And, he was, in hindsight, I wasn't, I was 4 months in the business, and I was already like trying to get him to like, let me go take listings and go on expireds and stuff. And, he's trying to keep me focused. And in my mind at 21, I was like, I felt like he was holding me back, but he was just trying to make sure I was more well-trained and educated before I started going and meeting with homeowners that, needed to sell one of their biggest assets. And, on the sell side, there's a lot of risk, right? Like the seller could get stuck with 2 mortgages. A lot of lawsuits happen on the listing side versus buy side. So anyways, I started prospecting expireds on a Saturday about 4 months after being on the team, and went on an appointment on Sunday, got the listing. Granted, it was overpriced and didn't work out, but I turned the listing in on Monday, and I told him I quit. I know the listing was overpriced in hindsight, because I noticed it expired from the market. The seller didn't have motivation. I totally botched it, but in my mind, I was like, this guy's holding me back. And so I had a customer I had sold a house to that got me to, he introduced me to somebody else in the real estate industry, and I joined his brokerage. And this guy was also, I'm in Central Texas. And so in Texas, the oil and gas industry is really big. And in 2006, 2007, when I got in real estate, as you guys remember, market started going on the decline. And my broker, he did a lot of like ranch type deals. It was called Texas Ranch and Home Realty. And he said, Chris, you're so young, you should go like, explore a lot of options before you set up a career path. And so, I got into the oil and gas industry in like after 4 months of being in real estate, and really totally derailed my real estate, agent career, if you will. And then in 2009, again, if y'all remember, the Dow Jones drops to like 5,000. It's complete hysteria. And so I'm in the oil and gas industry. I'm like subcontracted out through this company, and I get fired, basically laid off. And I'm like 23, 24 at the time. And the only thing I knew at that point was that I felt like I could do was call expireds. And fortunately in 2009, there were a lot of expired listings. And so because I had my license active in 2006, and I kept it active in 2000, at the end of 2009, or in 2009, I had started like, spending a lot of time trying to learn about SEO, lead generation, all these various things. And also, as the market was in free fall, I'd saved a bunch of money, and I was kind of like, what do you invest in when the market goes down? And so I'd read some, like reports, like, this is so stupid, but in hindsight, I can't believe I did this, but I invested in a bar and restaurant, and like, I don't even drink. I've never even been a server, I was basically a lawn boy my whole life. And so I invested in this bar and restaurant, and it was a complete disaster. In 9 months, we had chains on the door. I had burned through over 100 grand that I'd saved, pinching pennies and having roommates and stuff for 4 years out of college. And I was so broke, I ended up sleeping on my girlfriend's couch, and I had way too much pride to go live back with my mom. And so what was supposed to be a couple days sleeping on my girlfriend's couch turned into us getting married. And we've been together now for, I guess 11 years. We have 2 kids, 2 girls named Eva and Stella that are 2 and 5. But and after the bar and restaurant fiasco where I lost all my money, I didn't have money I couldn't spend on lead gen. And so when I got into a very humble place, I was in an incredibly humble place in my life. And I just kind of and I couldn't get coaching, I couldn't get any of those things. And so I just remembered, everything I had learned going through training in the very beginning. And I tried to stay very focused, and I tried working on, the things that don't cost any money. So I was doing open houses, working my sphere, and outbound prospecting, calling expireds and withdrawals. And I couldn't even afford Red-X at the time. I was having to track the numbers down on yellowpages.com when I looked in the MLS. And so, I didn't do that great. I applied a lot of hours. I was prospecting all day, every day. And I sucked. I was lucky to book 2 or 3 appointments a week. And then my conversion rate was maybe 20% when I got face-to-face with people. But, just through brute force, I was taking some listings, I was getting some sphere deals, I was meeting people open houses. So I was able to grind out a couple sales a month pretty quickly. And I had racked up so much debt from the bar and restaurant. I needed to find I don't know if anybody knows this, but in every state, there's this commission that manages alcohol sales. And so I literally had the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission call me daily. And then the liquor stores, we owed them 50 grand. And it's the mafia. These guys are calling me every day. And I'm I got to make more money. And I'm working as hard as I can. I'm on the phone prospecting, cold calling, looking up numbers, working off this red IKEA couch with this busted laptop. And I was I got to make money faster. So literally 6 months into 2010, and at that point, I'd probably only sold 18 or 19 houses. I applied for my broker's license. And I don't know how the hell they agreed to give me my license, but I got my broker's license in the summer of 2010, and I started recruiting. Buyer's agents, and I went to an event that ActiveRain.com put on, and Ben Kinney was the instructor, and Ben said that he used this CRM called Boomtown. And at the time, it was the latest and greatest CRM in 2010. So I got that CRM system put in on a credit card, and started generating a ton of leads through Craigslist. And in the summer of 2010, what I did was I went out and I got simultaneously, I was producing deals. I was meeting local business owners that I asked if they'd be willing to kick money into a marketing kitty. And at the time, I called them I called it my brand ambassador program. What I meant was me and my future team that I didn't quite have yet would be ambassadors for these local businesses. And we talk about these companies whenever we could, and recommend them, et cetera. And so I spent the summer of 2010 getting money from all these people. And again, I'd sold 18 houses, still sleeping on this red IKEA couch. And I convinced 5 people to come on board, and I got $2,500 a month committed. I think it was $1,500 from a mortgage company, $500 from a title company, $250 from a homeowner's insurance company, and another $250 from, I think, a roofer. And so I get the $2,500, and I tell everybody, hey, we're going to start spending that money on September 1st. And then in the afternoons, I was meeting with potential agents to join the team. And I got them to sign a letter of intent saying they would start on September 1. So I put Boomtown on the credit card. I get these LOIs for agents. I get the vendors to agree to kick in money. And then September 1, start growing the team. And I got my broker's license approved in July. And I was still out producing deals. And then, I started doing.
Hey, Chris, let me just interrupt real quick.
Sorry. Yeah. I don't know how deep you want to go.
No, I want to keep going, but I do want to kind of break apart this piece by piece by part, because there's some great nuggets coming from this. And I want you guys to get this. See, many of you are watching this webinar right now. You're saying, well, I understand Chris can sell 5,000 homes a year. Look at his marketing budget, right? Yet just recognize he started on a shoe. Actually, he didn't even have shoes to have a shoestring budget. You understand? Do not let money be the reason that you're not generating leads online. Your allied resource partners will kick in. They'll help you out. You just need to have the mindset and the fire in the belly to have the nerve to ask them.
Yeah.
Create your own brand ambassador program. Now, real quick, I know you're still doing the brand ambassador program. You go from $2,500 per month. What are you making from your brand ambassador program now?
Well, I mean, just in Austin, like just our Austin group is probably getting somewhere, it depends on the month, but between like 30 and 35,000 a month. I mean, if I collectively, we're in 21 markets now. If I collectively think about all those markets, like, I don't even know, it's like hundreds of thousands.
Congratulations.
A lot across 21 markets.
Okay, so let's keep going. So you get this $2,500 budget. You start meeting with agents to attract them to align with this vision of online lead generation, lead conversion, and they're going to make more money. Sign a letter of intent. We're going to start September 1st. So guys, he has zero money in the bank. In fact, he's got less than zero in the bank. He's in debt to all these people, and yet he's still forging ahead. He's got the tenacity to push through. So what happened September 1st?
Yeah, so I started bringing the agents on. I had no prepared training. I mean, I'm just like, I'm flying by the seat of my pants just out of desperation, to be honest. And looking back, I'm like, how did I convince these people to join? And believe it or not, most of the people that came on my team were really experienced agents. And like the reason they came on board was because I was offering leads, and I was offering, like, at the time in 2010, Boomtown, which is was a cutting edge CRM in 2010. Now CRMs are obviously kind of a dime a dozen, but they looked at me as this like young kid that was offering leads and the ability to give them tech that would help them enable the conversion of internet leads. And so I started running daily and weekly training over like a Zoom in 2010, and started showing people like how to work the system, lead follow-up, best practices, things I had literally just figured out like the prior 6 months myself. And and to be brutally honest, I'd like to tell you guys that the first year went great. But it was like May of 2011, maybe June of 2011. I got I was like figuring out taxes or whatever. And like, I had sold quite a number of houses myself, and not a ton. I think I sold like 40 something homes that year, but my accountant calls and like, I'm kind of like worried about if I owe taxes, because I still didn't have a lot of money. And he said, "Hey, you don't owe any money." And he said, "It looks like you made, about, I don't know, it was like $36,000. And I'm like, I made $36,000 last month in commissions. And he's like, "Well, I looked through all your expenses, and it looks like you're subsidizing all of these people on your team to pay for lead gen for them and pay for subscription fees and all these various things." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And in that moment, I was
By the way, how many of you can relate? Those of you that have tried to build teams, how many of you can relate? Okay, so
yeah. So I was in that moment, I was incredibly demoralized. To say demoralized, that would be a massive understatement. Like, I started diving into the numbers, which I had not done before. I wasn't tracking closings each month because I'm producing deals, trying to keep these vendors happy. I'm trying to teach the agents how to use the system, basically running around with my hair on fire, or my head cut off, one of the two. And I'm like, I'm diving into the numbers, and I'm like, well, man, we sold 98 homes over the last 12 months. And I'm like looking through how many deals each agent's closed. And I'm like, holy shit, me and one other guy sold 80 of those 98 homes. And so what's kind of crazy is in that first year, I recruited 20 agents. I had brought in 20 agents. So literally 20, including me and the other person. So we had 20 people on the team, and we closed 98 transactions. I mean, it was terrible. And so, at that moment, again, very humble, very humble. I was like, I need somebody that can coach and teach me and tell me what not to do. Cause like, again, I still owe all this money to all these people. I wasn't paying off enough money. I was still in a lot of debt. And so I got into coaching, and, that was kind of the beginning of, a life-changing event for me. I remember reading this book in 2010 and 2011 a couple times called Awaken, the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And like, I tell you what, like, if I hadn't been reading that book, I don't know mentally how I would have gotten through it, because, something they talk about in the book is like, you need to remember that when you're starting a new journey or you're going through something, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's just like a small moment in time, right? Like when you think about your whole career of your, of your as an agent, or your history of having a business, that's like a 40-year span or 30-year span. And it's so easy to get caught up in the moment when things aren't going good. But in the grand scheme of things, that's like such a small moment in time. And so, when my conversions were terrible and I was having all these issues, I tried to just like keep repeating that to myself, like, this is just a small moment in time. And I'm here like improving my skills and all these things. But, something else, if you read Tony Robbins or follows him, something he says is that success leaves clues. And number two, go find somebody that's where you want to be and just copy and paste what they were doing. And so like when I started the team in 2010, like out of the gate, again, I'm on this couch, broke as a joke. My wife will tell you this. She was working 2 jobs. She got a job she had just graduated. She had got a job as a leasing agent, and we moved out of her college apartment. And I asked her to get a job as a leasing agent so we could get the rent down low enough. So we were paying like $400 a month in rent. And then she was working she worked in college as a waitress at Johnny Carino's. And so she went and got a job in the evenings. So she's like working 2 jobs. She doesn't see me bringing in any money. It was rough. So anyways, Tony Robbins says that go find somebody that's where you want to be and just duplicate their success. Something else I remember hearing from Damon John on Shark Tank was pioneers get slaughtered and settlers prosper. So kind of think about like MySpace versus Facebook, for example, right? That's kind of what I always related it to. And so I was kind of like, again, I'm so ignorant. I'm like, how long has the real estate industry been around? I mean, again, I'm completely ignorant. I had no idea. And I'm like researching, I'm like, when did NAR get started? I'm like, holy cow, it was formed in 1908. And so after I'm reading that book, I'm like, man, so there's been a lot of people come through this industry over the last 100 years. There's probably a lot of people a lot smarter than me that have figured this out. So anyways, I get into coaching, and that was really the beginning of like some really massive change in my business. I started learning about, just overall like marketing, lead conversion, your marketing collateral, just cadence of training and accountability with your agents. And I started learning like, 80% of your success in this business is not predicated on how good of an agent you are. If you're trying to build a big business, it's predicated on how good are you at recruiting and selecting talent. 80% of your success, 80% of your success is predicated on that. You could be the worst agent in the world, but if you know how to recruit and select talent and build a team, hold those people accountable, and then have a strategy, and then this like flywheel of constant re-engagement with your team members, making sure everybody's doing what they need to do and tracking their KPIs, and then, putting the right people in the right seat on the bus or kicking the wrong ones off the bus. Like if you do that, you're going to find massive success. And so I'd like to tell you, I figured that out quickly, but it was very difficult. Again, I'll tell you another very humbling experience. I have all these agents, right? I told you a story, 20 agents, we called 98 deals.
Less than 5 per agent on average per year.
I mean, because me and one other person sold 80 of those. So my average transaction was 1 closing for the entire year per agent. So it was like the worst. And so I started reading all these, I started going down the rabbit hole, trying to figure out like how to make people successful, all these things. There's a couple books, by the way, that were, I think, very vital to me, helping me like figure some of these pieces of the puzzle out. One of them was a book called The Rare Find. And I actually heard about this book through this woman that's pretty prominent in Keller Williams. She's been in the industry forever. She ran the team of a guy named Chris Heller out of San Diego. I forgot what her name was.
Monica Reynolds.
Yes, that's her. Yes. So I heard this woman named Monica Reynolds on stage. I had no idea who she was. I had no idea who Chris Heller was. And I heard her on stage mention this book called The Rare Find. And I started reading this book, and it was just like, and he shares all these examples of different industries where they have this like, crazy vetting process around finding people to join your team. And the book was like incredibly inspirational for me to be able to think about like, how the interview process in the sales world is pretty much bullshit. Like you actually identify who your people are through watching them in action. Like, for example, the book talks about, in the nonprofit world, there's an organization called Teach for America. I don't know if anybody's heard of that organization, but it's ranked by Forbes as the 4th hardest company to get a job with, and you don't get paid squat when you work there. It's a nonprofit. And then, in the finance world, there's Goldman Sachs, right? And in the military, you've got the Navy SEALs. But something you learn in the book about all of these different companies that are that.
Oh, well, we've lost Chris. I'm sure he's going to jump right back on. A couple of things I want to unpack based on what he said. First, brand ambassador program. We're going to dive deep into that a little bit later during our webinar. There's no doubt about that. Yet, I think he's proven to you that when your ego gets out of control, and trust me, I've been there, like many of us have, your ego gets a little bit out of control. The world will figure out how to humble you, okay? So just always remain humble. Erase the board of your own achievements every day. Remain open to coaching, remain open to accountability. And of course, if you don't have the answer, do the research, find the answer. I mean, you heard Chris talk about how he read books to gain his knowledge, right? And here's the point. Your business, your production, your bank account balance and net worth will grow to the extent that you personally grow. You cannot give to others what you don't possess yourself. Now, another thing that he said, and I say this to all of my one-on-one coaching clients who want to build a business in real estate sales instead of just focusing on personal production, where you can leverage your models, systems, technology, and people to derive your income. I tell every one of my clients this: you're not a realtor. You don't sell houses. You are a recruiter. At the end of the day, when you can get your mind around that you're a recruiter, that you're looking for the right talent, and then you build out the right models, systems, technology, people, well, then you're going to thrive together. See, I love team building. That's the strength zone of Icon Coaching. Now, once again, I just want to remind you, if you choose to align with our community, allow us to kind of just pour into you, to add value to improve your knowledge and skills, well, just go to Icon Producers on Facebook. It's a private group, Icon Producers. Make application to join our community. Watch the videos that we post there. You're going to see a whole bunch of videos just like this one. And you'll be able to watch the replay links of all of our webinars there. Every so often I'll jump on, Kevin Yoder will jump on, Rick Jansen, Lee Jennings, all over that page, as is Rick. So guys, just tune in, make application. By the way, if you'd like a free one-on-one coaching session, when you go to meetwithicons.com, you can do that. Just a free coaching session, no strings attached. Meetwithicons, that's plural.com, and we'll give you a free coaching session. See if you're a good fit for what we're building here, which is just a community of leaders that are always looking for the shortcut. We're looking for the best way, the best practices to double our own production in real estate sales. All right, so what are some of your key takeaways? Let's start with you, Rick Jansen. What have you taken away so far?
Well, Sean, I'm taking notes furiously. And one of the things I'd like to learn again about is, like, Collette, you're building a team. Kevin, you're building a team. David, you're building a team. I know that. When he talks about when he was getting cut off and was talking about being selective in hiring and becoming like the Navy SEALs or the Teach for America of your market, how would you watch an agent in action to see whether they're a good fit for your team?
I can answer that. What I do with my team is I pour into them by bringing them along and showing them how to do what I do. Shadow me on listing appointments, shadow me on buyers appointments. And then I watch them in action once they've been trained up. And the people who are doing the level that I'm expecting out of them, they get additional business, they get additional leads, they get the gratitude of financial freedom of my lead generation sources. Those who don't just may need to be coming back into the fold to get a little bit more training. A little bit of energy, a little bit of enthusiasm for me goes a long way, because I feel like I can teach people and coach them up. When they're not coachable or teachable, then we may have a problem. That's my personal situation. But again, I was learning so much from Chris. I can't wait for him to come back on, because that's the challenge, right? Is getting talent, retaining talent, and also being able to step back a little bit as the leader. So hopefully he comes back on.
No doubt, no doubt. So with that said, Chris has been texting me. I think he had a battery issue, so he said he'll be back on in about 30 seconds. So a couple of things. I think if you want to really build a team, if you want to leverage through others to gain your own compensation rather than focusing solely on personal production, which don't get me wrong, focusing on personal production, that's noble. It's great. You'll make money doing that. Yet here's the challenge. If you want to go to Europe for 3 months, chances are you're not going to make much money, right? So it's having the leverage in place. Now, leverage, one of my favorite words. For most agents, I find that they hit this natural ceiling of achievement gain between 30 and 50 transactions per year, meaning I'm a solo agent. I can't work with another buyer. I can't take another listing because I can't create another 2 or 3 hours in the day. And which, by the way, if it meant I had to work those additional 2 or 3 hours in that day, I probably wouldn't want them anyway. You guys with me? So once we hit this natural ceiling of achievement, there's only one thing that's going to help you break through that natural ceiling of achievement, go on to extraordinary results or like icon status, right? And that is leverage. 4 categories of leverage, real quick. And I see Chris is back. So models, systems, technology, and people. All right, good stuff. Chris Waters, welcome back to our webinar today.
I was like, what happened to my computer? This thing ain't that old. And I had my 4-year-old was in here this morning, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, what's going on? And she unplugged the cord.
Battery died. Whoops.
Oh man, I didn't even notice it wasn't on the charger. So anyways, recruiting and selection, the rare find, they talk about these organizations that hire elite level talent. And I kind of told you that year where my agents averaged 1 deal, I started, reading these psychology books about like how to help people overcome limiting beliefs and all this stuff. And I remember reading this one like paragraph, and I immediately closed the book after, and I just kind of like sat back in my chair, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been going about this all wrong. And so in this psychology book, he was talking about this thing in psychiatrists use called cognitive behavioral therapy. Has anybody heard of cognitive behavioral therapy? Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert. I don't know a lot about it, but like I read this paragraph about it. I'm like, oh shoot, I need to do something different. So anyways, what it said in the book is basically like somebody that's been through like, master's degree, PhD, the apprenticeship, whatever, and like has been in their career for, 5 years, whatever, they're well positioned to help somebody use cognitive behavioral therapy, through these weekly sessions and help them overcome like whatever's going on up in their head, like holding them back, help them overcome that. Best case in 2 years and worst case in 5 years. So in that moment, I'm like thinking about all my expenses per agent. And I'm like, man, I cannot afford to wait 2 to 5 years. And I'm not very confident in my ability to execute on cognitive behavioral therapy to help these people overcome their limiting beliefs. Cause like the thing I kept finding was, it was like, I wanted success for these agents more than they wanted for themselves. And I'm like, oh my God, I just wanted to like pull my hair out. And so like, after reading the rare find, and another great book I recommend is called The Culture Code. That's actually a recent one that's really good, is The Culture Code. After reading those books and kind of understanding like what these organizations go through from a vetting process before somebody is like full blown on their team, I started connecting the dots. And so kind of the things I figured out is like from a funnel perspective, which most of us understand from a lead gen perspective, like, you generate 1,000 leads, you're going to get X number of buyer reps and then X number of closings. And so I kind of discovered there's kind of like a funnel with, finding talent. And so the most like predictable and consistent way for me to recruit people, even to this day, is just picking up the phone and calling people. My like sweet spot is like prospecting agents that are 6 months to 2 years in their career. The thing I discovered is when they're brand new, when they come into the team environment, they are not going to have an appreciation for everything you offer. Like, they don't understand that coaching is $1,500 a month or $2,500 a month. They don't understand like, there's desk fees at most companies and you got to pay for tech and all this stuff. Like they don't get it. And so like people 6 months in that are still in the industry and want to succeed, like they have a great appreciation for what you offer when they come from, the traditional big box brokerage. And then I set the 2-year limit because my first experience of hiring really experienced agents was that like if they haven't figured out how to find success after like 10 years of being in the business, I'm probably not going to be the person that helps them find success. And I don't have time to be a psychiatrist to help them overcome whatever's going on behind the scenes. So anyway, 6 months to 2 years was kind of the sweet spot of people I, prospect and call. And then, I was the basic things, look for people that are full-time, like this is what they want to be doing from sun up to sundown. And, they're willing to find success at all costs. And so like, those are kind of like,
this is a cold call, right?
Yeah, it's straight up cold call.
Yeah, so I imagine you got access to the data through like Teradata or broker metrics, right?
I mean,
agents 6 months to 2 years. What production were we looking for, by the way?
I didn't even pay attention to production. Like I was literally just looking at their license number, and based off the license number, you could tell how long they've been licensed roughly.
Okay. What did that sound like, by the way, when you called them? What did you say? It's a cold call.
Hey, my name's Chris Waters. I'm a real estate broker here in Austin. And I don't know if you're looking for any more opportunity, but I'm completely maxed. I've got some, referrals and leads I can hand off. Are you looking for any opportunity to grow your business? Would you like to meet for coffee and discuss further? I mean, it was super simple. Like I've got, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need like food and water. And so, I didn't realize it at the moment, but the thing I'm offering is basically like the food, like the opportunities, right? Like the agents don't understand it's actually the coaching that's going to help them like have the success. They think, it's the leads. They want clients to get face-to-face to, even though they don't know how to convert those people face-to-face. So anyways,
just real quick, Chris, see, in marketing, whether it's recruiting, whether it's attraction, whether it's real estate sales, in marketing, you've got to give them what they want, not what they need.
Yeah.
And Chris, what you're telling me is what they need is they need a great coach. They need a great training program. They need somebody who's going to hold them accountable. You can't sell them on that. You understand? You've got to sell them on what they want. Now, most agents, they believe that with more leads, they're going to have more income. Would y'all agree with that?
Yep.
So he's leading with what they want, not what they need. You guys get the point, right? Then in real estate sales, and we're going to talk about your number one lead magnets too, by the way, Chris, here in a moment. Yet in marketing for buyers and sellers, you can't give them what they need. Gang, they need all kinds of things. They need a painter. They need a carpet cleaner. They need a stager. They need somebody to come in and do professional photography. They need a mortgage loan originator for the next house they're going to buy. They need a great realtor. You can't sell them on what they need. You got to sell them on what they want. So we'll talk about lead magnets too, Chris. So prep yourself.
Yeah. So where were we? Sorry, I have terrible ADD. I can't stay focused for long.
And I keep interrupting you, man. Well, you just keep throwing out so many great things. I have to grab a hold of it or I'm going to forget, right?
Let's see. We were talking about people, recruiting. Where were we?
Yeah, just the script on attracting agents, the sweet spot between 6 months, 2 years. Didn't even look at production level, just looking at the duration of tenure in real estate. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And to be honest, before I even was, Sean, you put a lot better than I did. And at that time, I just did it by complete accident because it's all I had to offer to agents was leads and Boomtown. I wasn't really that successful as an agent at that point. So I really wasn't a trainer. I had to figure that out through a lot of failure and coaching. But the other thing I did was I don't know if Gary Keller's going to watch this. He may hate my guts after watching this, but I would literally just go to the KW website, look at the agent directory. And if they didn't have all those like designations next to their name, like ABRI, GRI, like all that crap, if they didn't have those designations, I called them because I assumed like they hadn't been in the industry that long. Let's see. So recruiting and selection, and I guess I think the biggest nugget I can share with you guys is like, if you don't treat the interview process as when you first meet them, and instead you treat the interview process as part of the first 90 days they're on the team, it'll be a game changer to your recruiting and more importantly, selection process. I think the only reason I bring up KW is because I'm in Austin, which is, KW's backyard. I think they have 3,000 agents here. Anyways, they have a class they used to have a class called RSTLM, I think. RSTLM. Recruit,
select, train, lead, motivate. Yep. They changed it to visioning.
Okay.
Of course. No doubt about that.
Yeah. So like out of all those letters, the one that I found was most important was S, selection. And so, I used to think the selection process occurred during the interview, but the true selection process is in their first 90 days. And kind of the thing I just, I didn't figure this out in the beginning, but the thing I figured out over the last, 10 to 11 years now is that there's like ultimately three things like you need to figure out in those first 90 days. And the first is like in month number one, like, you can't track their production and all those stuff in the first 30 days. The only thing, the thing I learned that you can pay attention to in the first 30 days is how team members behave around other people. So like, if you read the culture code, the book, The Culture Code, what the guy talks about in the book is the earliest indicator of success for any team is not any individual strengths or past experiences. It's how each person feels about one another. And so like our job as leaders is to help improve people's mindsets and, have a great culture where people want to be there. And the most frustrating thing about this whole culture thing is like you as a leader have a very limited scope in terms of what you can do to have an impact on culture. So like, for example, I started like 2012, 2013, I'd get these party buses and take everybody on wine tours and get everybody drunk. And I thought that'd be like a way to build culture. And we do all these parties and stuff. But like, it was just very short lived. It was like a caffeine injection. Like everybody had a good time, but it didn't make people want to come to the office. Like that was my other challenge, was like getting people to show up and like prospect on the phone. And so I hired this leadership coach, and he told me, culture gets created from the bottom up. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And he said, basically, like you have very limited control in terms of like how culture gets created. And you're like, basically the levers you have to control culture is the selection process. And, culture is essentially how, people feel. Right? It's like how they feel about the organization and the other people they're around. And so, like our job as leaders is to try to drive a positive mindset, because we know when we prospect on the phone or we meet clients face to face, if we're detached from the outcome and more of a playful mindset versus like, scarcity and things like that, we're going to have more success because we're more connected to getting the best result for the client, whether it's good for us or not. But you have to be in the right mindset to do that. And so if in the first 30 days you hire somebody, you focus on how they treat other people, those positive behavioral cues that happen in those interactions between people is what's going to drive that culture where people want to be around each other and they want to jump out of bed and come to the office. And so the thing you'll notice, like every time you hire a new group of people, is that you'll always have like one or two people that are very like, from a behavioral perspective, they're not coachable, they're not humble, maybe ego or like very contrarian to what you're teaching or whatever. And like, those are the people you have to like kick out right away, like in the first 30 days. And so first 30 days, we do the typical stuff, like from a training perspective, like we get them on the phone, we get them prospecting, we're giving them feedback. So you got to do all those basic things. But like the real measure in the first 30 days is, are they a culture fit? And you pay attention from a distance to how they behave around their team members. So like, you're looking for people that are like high-fiving, helping one another, like holding the door for somebody, like these basic like behavioral things that make people want to be around each other. And then in the second month, the key thing that I kind of, stumbled upon that I figured out is pretty important is in month 2, you really start identifying who's coachable. Like the thing I always found is like, I spent the first month teaching and training them all this stuff. And then in month 2, I always have like one or two people that like question everything. And like, I'll tell them once and then twice. And then like, they're still coming back to me trying to do it a different way. And I'm like, dude, just copy and paste what I just said. And so month 2 is where you really start identifying how coachable people are. And then the final month 3, that's when you start really identifying how committed people are. Like I start noticing a lot of people start falling off the bus. Like they don't show up anymore. They're not making the calls. There's excuses. They got to go, help their girlfriend do something. They got to go do this. They got, they can't come to the office because of this. So like month 3 was, where we really gauge commitment level. And so the thing I I talked about earlier was this funnel on the people side. And so what that funnel has looked like for me over the last 10 years is basically I have to set 40 appointments at the top with prospective agents. And then 20 of those people will show up. 20 people show up. Doesn't say a lot about your average agent. They'll commit to something and not follow through. So set 40 appointments, 20 people show up. And then out of those 20 people, we'll typically get about 7 letters of intent. So the letter of intent, it's just this like, document that's like addressed from them to us, the company, that says, I've talked to my family, I've talked to my friends, I understand what it takes. And, I'm willing to commit and sacrifice to, having a successful career and following through with whatever it takes to find success. And so they sign the letter of intent and give it to us. And then once they've done that, then we'll prepare all the position agreements and, HR papers or whatever. So you get out of those 7 LOIs, 5 people to actually be butts in the chair on day 1 of training.
Wow.
And then out of those 5 butts in the chair, 30% on average will end up being high producing agents. And so that's what the funnel looks like. And so what's interesting is probably one of the biggest mistakes I've kind of discovered, and I've again, it's something I've figured out over the last 5 years because I've helped now 21 people across the country scale up teams. Like, every single one of these people I partner with is selling like, a lot of them are selling 25 to 50 homes and they were stuck. And now they're, I'm helping them sell 500 homes a year. And so one of the mistakes I kind of figured out people were making is they weren't bringing in groups of new agents. Like they would only bring in like 1 or 2 or 3 agents at a time. And so the thing is like the probability of you finding an agent, like the odds are massively stacked against you, like massive. It's kind of like if you go buy 100 internet leads, like the odds of you finding the needle in the haystack buyer, the odds are stacked against you. I mean, if you buy leads through Google or Facebook, like only 1 or 2 is going to close. And so your odds, right, are stacked against you. And it requires a lot of consistency, a lot of effort to find those deals. So it's very, like finding talent is very similar to working those cold internet leads. They're not cold, but the people don't necessarily know who you are. So anyways, it requires a great deal of effort. Again, I found 40 appointments, 20 people show up, 7 LOIs, 5 butts in the seat. And anytime I did a class where there were less than 5 people, I would have like a 60 to 90 day period where I was incredibly frustrated because I would train up all these people and then nobody was left.
Yeah.
I spent, 60, 90 days coaching them and they were gone. Like,
what does that look like today, Chris? I mean, how many people, because you do group attraction, right? And guys, all the sense of the world, you could hire 1 agent a month and you could invest your time with 1 agent and then invest your time with the next agent. And it's just like rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Why not just bring in a whole bunch of people all at once and then just deal with the numbers as they fall off? Numbers game, just like anything else, right?
Yep.
So what does a typical recruiting event look like for you and how often do you do them?
So, I mean, I do a recruiting class every single month, like every month. So, obviously you can't do this in the beginning because maybe like a lack of funding or whatever, but like whenever I go into a new market, our key hires is a market manager, a recruiter, and a trainer. Like those are my 3 key hires right out of the gate in a new market. Again, in the beginning, when you're bootstrapping, you don't have those people. So you have to wear all of those hats. And it's, and this is one of the reasons why so few people pull off, the team model at a high level and actually exit the business, because it's so hard at the beginning. It's so hard. You're wearing so many hats at the beginning. I mean, and this is true for any entrepreneur in any business. You're just wearing a lot of hats and it's really, really difficult. And so, having a cadence to your schedule in terms of like how you rotate, what I think are the 3 biggest plates in building the business. Those 3 plates, by the way, is building up money through local businesses. Number 2, recruiting talent, and then you producing and closing deals on the listing side so you can drive revenue and keep the wheels turning and cranking. Like spinning those 3 plates from a time perspective is tough. It's really tough. So what's kind of interesting is like, as you study these more elite level organizations, you'll find a common theme, which is most of them, only about 30% of the people that actually come into the class actually make it. Like actually, like for example, in the Navy SEALs, they'll get 1,000 applications, 200 people will show up, and like maybe 60 guys will make it. Maybe the other 140 guys are ringing the bell, out of 1,000 applications. So, I think for a lot of us, like for probably everybody on this call, a lot of us, we take for granted a lot of the stuff maybe we have these natural gifts towards, like hard work, grit, perseverance. Maybe some of us are better naturally at sales or connecting with others than others, better at connecting with others. But we are the people, like for example on this Zoom session, I can see we're the rare finds, and we take that for granted. And you got to remember, like you look at the 2 million real estate agents out there, the average agent's selling 4, 5, 6 homes a year. And so when you're building a team and you're investing money into people on your team, like to find somebody that's going to sell 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 homes a year, like that is the rare find. And it's like the analogy I gave of buyer lead generation. You're looking for a needle in the haystack, and it requires an exorbitant amount of effort.
Chris, I'm learning so much from you, but I want to ask you a quick question. I apologize if I'm interrupting, but I do want to know 2 things. Number one, you've been grinding at this for so long and you're so successful. Number one, how do you keep those folks that are those golden guys, right? That 10%. And secondly, what's your exit strategy from having to work so hard?
Yeah, two really great questions. So first off, one of my biggest ahas is that, you have to decide what your business model is. So for example, in the brokerage world, there's a couple different business models. There's the agent count model, meaning you have tens of thousands of agents. For example, EXP, KW, Coldwell Banker, et cetera. It's about agent count. Not to say all those companies don't want agents that go and crush it. They all do. But like, their formula and funnel is predicated on agent count, not agent production. And so, what I discovered is there's basically a life cycle to agents. And if you think about it, if you like kind of zoom out for a minute and you think about the career trajectory path of an agent, like as a team owner, a real estate team owner, your value proposition is leads, it's training, technology, bankroll their success. But at a certain point, if you've done all of those things well, like your value proposition has massively diminished. And so like, by what I found is, between years 2.5 to 3, if for the agents that are crushing it, your value proposition falls off. And so when you take into account like your recruiting strategy and what your funnel looks like, you need to account for the people that are going to fall off. And one of the greatest mistakes that I think you can make is try to adjust your financial model to keep agents on board. And so I've met a lot, and I made this mistake myself. I had to figure this out the hard way. I started increasing my splits on sphere deals up to 80% to keep agents to stay on board. But what happened was, as I increased their sphere splits, they stopped spending time converting the deals I was spending money on. I read this book let me see if I got it here. It's written by Charlie Munger, and it's called Seeking Wisdom. Another amazing book, Seeking Wisdom. I think I got it here somewhere. I reference this book all the time. I actually have it on my desk because it's very hard to digest. It's like, this is a very hard book to read. Like if you've ever tuned into YouTube and you watch Charlie Munger sitting next to Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger doesn't talk a whole lot, but when he says like 2 sentences, it takes you like 20 minutes to digest it. This is the book, by the way, Seeking Wisdom. I keep this on my desk because like I keep rereading it all the time. So Charlie Munger is 96 years old. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett said he's the smartest person they've ever met in his life. If you read this book and you listen to Charlie Munger talk, you'll get it. So something Charlie Munger says in the book is like, over his like 60, 70 year, career of like advising like billion-dollar companies, is he is always shocked by the power of incentive. Like whatever you incentivize, that's where people's attention goes. And so by me increasing the sphere splits, right, up to 80%, I was taking their attention away from converting the leads that I was, producing for them. So the aha is like, that I had was I have to stay disciplined to like my financial model and my splits. And I have to recognize that my value proposition with agents, if they don't decide to go into leadership, is going to diminish. And it makes sense for them to go join another brokerage that has a different business model that fits, where they are in their career. So I think we need to, we got to remember to stay in a mindset of abundance, which is, can be hard to do. I've had people tell me that, I just treat people like a number or whatever, but like, it's not that at all. Like I'm obsessed with helping agents succeed, but I recognize when my value proposition diminishes and it doesn't, and like, I can't, and I can't sacrifice the financial model of the business to like increase their splits.
Chris, there's so much wisdom in that, by the way. And yet you did reference an ascension ladder to where they can take a leadership role within
Yes.
International Realty, which, by the way, when Chris was a solo agent, he started his company called Waters International Real Estate. Now, I want you to get your mind around that.
Yeah.
Thinking big from the very, very beginning. Now, what does that ascension ladder look like? I'm an agent. I align with your team. I'm crushing it. I want more opportunity. What's the next step in my growth?
Yep. That's exactly right. Like, ultimately the only reason an agent will leave you is lack of opportunity. So there's very limited things we can do once they hit that ceiling in the team model where, they're starting to get a lot of past clients coming to them. And like, they've learned everything they can learn from you. Like they've been with you for several years. They've capped out, because you're preaching lead conversion or I like the three specific to training. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but like if I had to condense like basically the three things you're trying to teach agents, there's like three dominoes you're trying to knock down. The first skill you're trying to teach agents is inside sales. So, a lot of us in real estate forget this, but there's actually more people employed in the United States with the job title inside sales than real estate agents. Like the inside sales job sector is bigger than the number of total real estate agents. So inside sales is a skill in itself. And in fact, most companies hire people to specialize in inside sales. So that's a skill on its own that you have to master. What to say on the phone, how to manage your pipeline, how to go for the close, book the appointment, how not to talk yourself out of the appointment. The second big domino is outside sales. So once you get face-to-face with somebody, how do you get them committed to working with you? I always, when I meet agents, like the first day of training class, I tell them the road to riches in real estate is learning how to convert somebody that has no idea who you are, because your business is only going to scale up so fast working your sphere and people that already know you. So your road to riches is connecting people that have no idea who you are. Like that's how you make a lot of money in real estate. So number two is the outside sales component. And then the third component is the real estate piece, which is being a market expert. So understanding the contracts, dealing with inspections, all the nuances of being an agent. Those are the big three, overarching things from a skills perspective. And there's a lot, to unpack within each of those, but those are the three overarching things we have to focus on. And so at a certain point, if you've done a good job as a team lead, they will have taken that to the pinnacle from an educational perspective. And, you don't have a lot else to teach them besides, maybe getting in business with them or, another opportunity that you can present is, and this is kind of predicated on your resources and available capital is, doing investment deals. Like most people get in real estate for because they want to build a rental portfolio, investment, et cetera. And so, some of the things I do with some of our agents is I have a line of credit available and I tell them if they find the deal, get it under contract, here's our buy box. Here's what we're looking for. Here's the buy box. If it checks all those boxes, send the contract to our office manager to sign.
So to summarize what you just said, to keep a philosophy of how your agents and the people in your group really work is once they've mastered inside sales first, outside sales, and then just the real estate end of the business, then they're funneled into that ascension ladder of partnership and different things of leadership within your organization.
Yep. And
Gang, we got 30 seconds left. There's so much to unpack here. I mean, I've got
Collette pretty much nailed it. And the thing is, we've put a lot of people in leadership roles and they don't work out. They suck. They're great salespeople, but they suck as leaders. They're selfish, which is cool. Most selfish people make a lot of money in sales. but they're not great leaders. And so they end up leaving. And so you just have to be okay with that. Like you can't keep people forever and you can't modify your business model. What was your do we have time for her second question?
We don't. Sadly, we got 15
Can
seconds.
we have Chris back? Can we please have another one with Chris?
Yeah. Real quick vote, show of hands. How many of you guys want to do this again with Chris? There's just
Chris, I wasn't even going to be on today. This was like a happy coincidence. So I'm so thankful. Like I know everyone is, the panelists as well as the folks listening. So thank you.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to reach out to you. Let's get back on this again. Let's redo this, okay? Because I had a list of like 20 questions. I didn't get to ask one yet. I took away so much from the time together. So
can we do like a 5-minute power hour? Do we have 5 minutes to go through Q&A? I feel bad leaving.
You all can, but I cannot. I can make somebody else a host who can stick around for 5 minutes.
I can stick around 5 minutes if you want to, or I don't know if you can make me host.
You are now the host. Oh, but this is on my Zoom account and I don't think I can start my next Zoom meeting. This started.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll do another one.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Such gold, man. Thank you.
Bro.
Appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.